What happens when a woman decides to throw an elite party on someone else's land with bulls behind a fence? What happened after her toast left all the guests stunned? You ever been so mad your damn hands start itching? Not from nerves, not from fear, just that deep down kind of itch, like your bones themselves know you're being disrespected? That was me, standing in my own kitchen, looking out the window like I was in some kind of twisted episode of a home makeover show, except the only thing being made over was my patience. Karen didn't just cross a line. She built a dance floor on it. My pasture, my field, was now a wedding venue for people who couldn't tell a Holstein from a Harley. I saw a man in a tuxedo try to hand-feed my calf a macaron. A goddamn macaron. You believe that? Now let me back it up for you, cause I know some folks out there might say, well, maybe it was a misunderstanding. No. This woman didn't ask. Didn't call. Didn't knock. She just marched right onto my land like it came with her mortgage. You gotta have a special kind of privilege stitched into your skin to pull that off with a straight face. I called the sheriff. He showed up about 45 minutes later, driving slow like he already knew what kind of headache this was gonna be. Deputy Calvin, good man, knows my family, stepped out, took one look at the rows of chairs and fairy lights, and muttered, Lord have mercy. I walked over, gave him the short version. She says it's already scheduled. Claims she thought this was county property. Calvin scratched his head. You got your deed? Damn right I do. You want it laminated, framed, or gift-wrapped? He chuckled, but even he looked uncomfortable. This kind of thing, it's messy, Adam. You want to file an official complaint. Complaint? Hell, I want a damn bulldozer. He sighed. Well, she's not technically claiming it's hers. Says it's just a one-time event. One-time trespassing, still trespassing, I snapped. Calvin walked over to her. I watched the whole thing from 10 feet back. Karen had her polite face on, the kind of polite that means I dare you. She was all sugar and spin, talking about family traditions and rustic elegance like she was writing a brochure for hell. And here's the kicker, Calvin didn't shut it down. Said it was civil, not criminal. Said if I had a problem, I needed to take it to county court. County court. You know what county court means? Lawyers. Fees. Time off work. Delays. Which is exactly what folks like Karen count on. They wear you down with paperwork until you just give up. That ain't justice, that's a damn scam in a necktie. By noon, the DJ was blasting Beyoncé like it was Coachella, and one of her little cousins was climbing my fence like it was a jungle gym. I saw one of my bulls, Duke, start pacing. Now Duke's a good bull. He don't bother nobody unless they bother him first. But when strangers get too close and the noise gets too loud, he don't forget he's got horns for a reason. I walked out to the barn, checked the gate, made sure it was still latched. The last thing I needed was someone's flower girl getting the rodeo treatment. And yet, a part of me thought maybe that's what they need. My wife, bless her, came out with a glass of tea. You look like you're trying not to catch a case, she said. I am, I replied. And failing. She put a hand on my arm. You always said this land teaches people respect. I said it teaches people what happens when you lose it. I looked out at the field. A full band was setting up now. Real instruments. Saxophones. Drums. Somebody had strung lights from my oak tree like it was their personal chandelier. I mean, imagine someone breaking into your home, rearranging your furniture, throwing a party, and then telling you to enjoy the vibes. That night, around 6, the guests started pouring in. BMWs, Teslas. People in heels sinking into my dirt like they'd never touched earth before. I watched a man in white loafers try to bond with nature by petting a cow. The cow sneezed on him. I didn't laugh. Out loud. Then I saw her. Karen. Walking down the aisle she had built with pink rose petals. Smiling like she just solved racism. She had a clipboard in one hand and a walkie-talkie in the other. Barking orders at her staff like she was directing traffic in Times Square. I stepped up to her. You don't belong here, I said real low. She didn't even flinch. Oh, Adam, relax. It's just one night. You'll survive. That's when I felt it, the snap. Not in my voice. Not in my hands. In my damn soul. This wasn't just about property anymore. This was about something deeper. Something older. The kind of disrespect that comes wrapped in perfume and pearls. Smiling while it steps on your neck. She turned and walked away before I could say another word. I stood there for a long while. Watching. Breathing. Thinking. Then I turned. Walked back toward the barn. And I started making a few preparations. No threats. No violence. Just adjustments. Because sometimes you don't need to raise your voice. You just need to let the land speak. And trust me, it was about to say a whole lot. What happened next changed everything. You're not going to want to miss how this unfolds, because this isn't just a story, it's a reckoning. You ever stand so still the whole world feels like it's moving around you? That was me the next morning, out by the barn, staring at my land like it had betrayed me. But the truth is, it wasn't the land. It was what she did to it, and how easy it was for her to do it like she had every right in the world. I found a champagne cork near the fence line, still sticky, just lying there like some kind of celebration badge. A wedding streamer had tangled itself in my hay rake. One of my calves, Boone, the little one I helped deliver, had pink ribbon stuck around his leg. That's when I had to take a minute, not because I was mad, but because I knew what this really was. It wasn't just disrespect. It was erasure. And if you've never had someone try to make you invisible on your own land, I don't think you'll ever quite understand the kind of fire that builds in your chest after. Now see, I come from people who built things by hand and protected them with both prayer and patience. I learned from my daddy that a man's word should mean something, that when you till the ground, sweat in it, bleed in it, bury your family in it, then that land becomes more than soil. It becomes identity, legacy. And when somebody waltzes in and uses it like it's their backyard brunch venue, just because they think nobody will stop them, it's not just your fence they're crossing. It's your dignity. So I did what I do when something hurts too deep to yell about. I worked all day, repaired a loose post, cleaned out the troughs, checked on every last animal. And while I moved, I thought long and hard about every time someone like Karen got away with things just because the world's too tired to fight them. Right around noon, my daughter Sam came storming out the house holding her phone like it was burning her hand. "Dad." She posted it. I blinked. Posted what? The wedding. Your land. Her page. Look. I took the phone from her and scrolled. There it was. A whole gallery of professionally taken photos. Flower crowns. Cows in the background. Caption: a magical, rustic afternoon in our charming new neighborhood. So thankful for this beautiful rancher's cooperation. My mouth went dry. Cooperation? I didn't cooperate. I didn't even consent. But she painted it like we were partners. Like I handed her the keys and said, "Yes, ma'am. Use my legacy for your photo op." She tagged us, Sam said, eyes blazing. People think we're some kind of wedding farm now. 2 hours later, 3 women in high heels and wide hats showed up in a silver SUV asking for a venue tour. Said they were planning a baby shower. A baby shower. On my land. I don't even know what came over me, but I walked up to that fence line, looked those ladies dead in the eye and said, "Ma'am, the only thing being delivered here is hay and possibly a few horn charges if you keep standing that close to my bull." They got back in that SUV real quick. But that was just the beginning. The next day, a man in a dress shirt and loafers came knocking. Said he was a property integration consultant. I didn't even know what that meant. But apparently, he was working with Karen's Homeowners Association to explore long-term utilization opportunities for underused land. Underused land. I told him my cows might have something to say about that. He laughed. I didn't. That same evening, Sam came back from the general store with more news. Apparently Karen had donated money to the local festival board and offered to host an outdoor fundraiser on open ranch property she referred to as community adjacent. I sat down on the porch and stared at the sky until it turned black. Then I went to the shed, dug through 3 toolboxes, and pulled out the file marked legal. I wasn't gonna yell. I wasn't gonna fight. But I was gonna document. Next morning, I called every office that would listen. County records, zoning, property commission, even the newspaper. I made it crystal clear. This land is not for rent, not for lease, not for weddings, picnics, influencer shoots, or spiritual retreats. And I put up signs, big, bold, metal signs. Private ranch land, no trespassing, no exceptions. Then I added one more, just for Karen. This land works harder than your HOA. Sam thought it was petty. I thought it was perfect. But Karen? Oh, she was just getting started. Next morning, I found a letter folded under my gate. It was handwritten in cursive, fancy, like a wedding invite. Inside was a note that said, "Dear Adam, you may have misunderstood the energy we're trying to build here. It's not about ownership, it's about community. And you have a responsibility, as a visible landowner, to contribute to the aesthetic and cultural tone of the neighborhood. I hope you'll reconsider your position. With gratitude, Karen." Cultural tone. Visible landowner. Lord have mercy. She was writing like she was running for office. I laughed. The kind of laugh that don't have joy in it. Just the sound of someone reaching their limit. Then I sat down at my desk and typed a reply. I didn't curse. Didn't even raise my tone. But every word I wrote carried the weight of 5 generations and 1,000 miles of barbed wire. Karen, the energy I'm building is respect for boundaries. And the cultural tone around here is set by those who earn their place, not those who take it. Stay on your side of the fence. Sincerely, the owner. I hand-delivered that letter to her mailbox, turned around, and didn't look back. That night, I double-checked every latch on my barn. Fed the bulls a little earlier. Looked each one of them in the eye. Because while I don't believe in revenge, I do believe in preparation. And something told me Karen still hadn't learned her lesson. Not even close. This is the moment everything tilts. What happens next? You won't believe who crosses the line and what crosses back. Stay close. The land's not done speaking. You can tell a lot about people by how they treat a fence. Some folks see a fence and think, I should go around. Others think, I wonder what's on the other side. But folks like Karen, they see a fence and go, that doesn't apply to me. And let me tell you something, when someone decides the rules don't apply to them, you better buckle up. Because it's not a question of if they'll cross the line. It's a question of when and how much damage they'll cause when they do. That morning started out normal. Sun rising over the ridge. Cattle grazing. Me sipping black coffee with just a hint of cinnamon, the way my wife used to make it before her arthritis got bad. I stepped out onto the porch, felt the morning breeze hit my face, and almost convinced myself peace had returned. Then I heard it. A buzzing. Not bees. Not a lawnmower. A drone. I looked up and there it was, spinning slow above my pasture like some plastic UFO. Big OL camera dangling underneath. Hovering. Watching. I didn't panic. I didn't wave. I just stared. See, I'd been waiting on this. Karen wasn't gonna take the bulls and the letter as a lesson. No, she was gonna regroup. Re-strategize. Spin the story. And here it was. Surveillance. Sam stepped out behind me, still tying her bandana. You hear that? She asked. I do, I said. Yours? Nope. We both watched it zigzag back toward the beige block of homes up on the ridge. Unbelievable, she muttered. No, actually, I said. This is exactly who she is. Later that afternoon, I drove into town to pick up feed. Small town like ours? News travels faster than cell phone reception. And sure enough, I could feel the eyes. Little nods from folks I'd known 20 years. But this time, the nods came with side glances. With hesitations. With that look folks get when they know something but ain't sure if they should say it. Then Mike from the hardware store leaned in over the counter. Adam, he said, voice low. You seen Karen's new website? I blinked. Website? She launched something called rusticluxurytexas.com. All about her event business. Claims she's in partnership with a generational landowner offering exclusive rural experiences. Pictures of your field, your cows, even your barn. I didn't say anything. I just nodded, paid for my feed, and walked out the door. My stomach twisted the whole way home. She wasn't just using my land anymore. She was turning it into a brand. Back at the ranch, I pulled up the website. Sure enough, there was my land filtered, cropped, dressed up with pastel overlays and text that read, Escape to Real Texas Charm. A private oasis hosted in collaboration with a local ranch legacy. My cows were background props. My fences? Referred to as authentic country accents. She even used a photo of Duke, my oldest bull, and called him the ranch's gentle giant. I stared at that screen until my eyes burned. Then I walked out, grabbed my bolt cutters, and rewired every entry point on my land. Every gate, every fence. I didn't care if it had been untouched for 40 years. If it connected to the road, it got reinforced. I added new cameras. Solar-powered. Motion sensing. My daughter helped me install them while cursing under her breath every 3 minutes. She's gonna get someone hurt, she said. People keep wandering onto this land thinking they're on a dang movie set. She was right. I'd already had 2 cars pull up that week asking about tour times. One couple even had the nerve to bring wine and ask if they could picnic with the cows. That night, I sat in my recliner with the lights off, staring at the wall. You ever reach a point where you're not even angry anymore? Just tired. Not defeated, but bone-deep tired. That's where I was. Not because Karen was clever, she wasn't. But because no matter what I did, she acted like it didn't count. It's exhausting being invisible to someone on your own land. The next morning, I went out to check the eastern field. Sam was ahead of me on the ATV, scoping the perimeter. She stopped so fast I nearly rear-ended her. Dad, she pointed. You see that? There was a table. A whole table. Set up just past the fence line. Tablecloth, candles, chairs, and yes, champagne. I pulled out my binoculars. 8 women, all dressed in white. Big hats. Holding glasses. One of them had a clipboard. And right there in the center, Karen. Giving a speech. They weren't even pretending anymore. They were hosting events. Right against the fence. No invitation. No warning. No decency. They hung a sign over my wire that said, Karen's Corner, the view that heals. The only thing that sign was healing was my tolerance. Sam turned to me, eyes wide. Dad, they're filming. Let 'em, I muttered. She tilted her head. You serious? I am. I got off the ATV and started walking. Slow. Deliberate. Right toward the barn. Because if they couldn't read fences, maybe they could read bulls. I walked into the barn, unlatched the gate, and stood aside. Duke stepped out first, sniffing the wind. Behind him came Tank, Earl, and the rest of the boys. Calm. Proud. Like they'd been waiting for the stroll all week. They didn't charge. Didn't rush. They just moved. Straight toward the brunch. I stayed on my side of the fence, arms crossed, watching. It didn't take long. One woman screamed. Another dropped her glass. Karen spun around mid-sentence and froze when she saw 5 massive bulls walking straight across the pasture. You ever seen someone try to grab a wine bottle while running in heels through tall grass? I have. Karen screamed something about calling security. Security? This is security. The women scattered like leaves in a storm. One jumped the fence, nearly tripping over the garland she'd strung herself. Another crouched behind the brunch table as if beef is deterred by linen. Duke didn't touch them, didn't even get close. He just stood there, watching, breathing slow. It's funny, people always assume bulls are violent. But what really gets folks shaken is how calm they can be when they're not supposed to be. Karen finally made it back to her SUV, dress torn, hair looking like a bird nest. She drove off without saying a word. And me? I walked back to the barn and closed the gate. Good boys, I whispered. They earned extra feed that night. I didn't tell anyone, didn't brag, didn't post. But the town? Oh, it buzzed. Next morning, someone dropped off a tray of cookies shaped like cows. One of the city clerks called just to say, "We got your message." Even the mayor sent a note thanking me for bringing attention to boundary violations in the county. Karen? Silent. Her website? Taken down by sunset. That table? Gone by dusk. And peace? Well, it didn't come back all at once. But it started with that walk back to the barn. With every hoofprint in the dirt. Every blade of grass that stood tall again. Because the land remembers. And now, so does everyone else. You thought that was the end? Not quite. One last turn is coming. And it'll shake more than just fences. Stick around. Some lessons hit harder when the whole town's watching. Some folks learn through pain. Others don't learn at all. That morning, I woke up to birdsong, the scent of fresh alfalfa, and a letter on my porch that had no business being there. County seal. Certified mail. It was the kind of envelope that don't bring good news, it brings paperwork and usually problems. I slid it open slow. Real slow. Inside was a notice, property reassessment request pending, allegation, misuse of agricultural designation. Let me break that down in plain English. Someone accused me of running a business that didn't qualify as a farm. Said my bulls were part of an unsanctioned event operation. Said my land wasn't being used properly under zoning law. Now I'm no mind reader, but I know spite when I smell it. This was Karen. Her fingerprints were all over it. Not physically, but spiritually. It reeked of desperation and scented envelopes. See, when folks like her lose control, they don't apologize. They weaponize systems they barely understand. They push buttons hoping something will go off. And when it don't, they just keep pushing. But here's the thing, I don't back down. Never have. Never will. So I sat down, poured myself a mug of coffee, and read that notice 5 more times until the words couldn't sting anymore. Then I called my daughter Sam and said, "Get the folder." We spent the rest of the day gathering every document this ranch has ever produced. Deed records, soil reports, tax filings, vet reports, feed receipts. I even dug out an old black and white photo of my granddad leaning on a shovel next to the first bull he ever raised. And I made copies, 6 of everything, neatly stacked, hole-punched, tabbed and bound. I may be old school, but I don't play amateur. That Friday, I walked into the county office wearing my cleanest boots, my crispest denim shirt, and the kind of steady confidence you can't fake. The hearing room was small. Beige walls, dusty blinds, coffee that tasted like burnt memories. 3 board members sat behind a long desk. Karen sat in the back, legs crossed, notepad in her lap, fake smiling like she was waiting for a hair appointment. The chairwoman looked up and said, "Mr. Harris, would you like to make a statement?" I stood up slow, placed my binder on the table. "Yes, ma'am," I said. "This land has been a working ranch since 1949. My family has raised cattle here for 4 generations. We don't host weddings. We don't run parties. We raise bulls. We sell beef. We pay taxes. We don't break the law. We build fences." I flipped open the binder, slid a copy to each board member. "These are our documents. Feel free to verify every page." "I'll wait." Silence. Karen shifted in her seat. The board asked a few questions. I answered straight. No emotion. Just facts and backbone. Then the zoning officer cleared his throat and said, "Mr. Harris, based on what we see here, it appears your land is well within its agricultural use." I nodded once. They turned to Karen. "Is there any documented evidence of misuse that has not been presented?" She blinked, smiled, opened her mouth, and for once in her life said nothing. Not a word. Because there wasn't one thing she could say that wasn't already buried under 74 pages of truth. The board dismissed the complaint that afternoon. I walked out of that room with my binder in one hand and the full weight of my name in the other. But it didn't stop there. That next Sunday, I got a knock on the door. It was the mayor. Now, I don't see him much outside ribbon cuttings and parades, but there he stood holding a pie and looking like he owed someone a real explanation. "Adam," he said, "I just want you to know that complaint shouldn't have made it past the front desk. Someone bypassed proper channels. We're tightening things up." I didn't offer him a chair. I just took the pie, nodded, and said, "Appreciate it." Then I shut the door. Because some things don't need follow-up. They need closure. And that was mine. Over the next week, something changed. Slow at first. Then all at once, people started waving again. A local reporter asked to do a story on multi-generational ranching, no mention of Karen, just real roots, real land. A teacher from the elementary school called and asked if her class could come visit, learn about ranching. Said they wanted to see where real food comes from. I agreed. Because this land ain't a museum, it's a legacy. And legacies don't survive unless you pass them on. So I gave those kids the tour my granddad gave me when I was 9. Showed them the barn, let them toss feed, even let them brush Duke, who stood there like he knew he was royalty. And when one little boy asked, "Mister, why do you have so many fences?" I crouched down, looked him in the eye and said, "Because some people don't know how to stay where they belong." As for Karen, she never came back. She sold her house quietly a month later. Word around town is she's looking at mountain property in Colorado. I wish her luck. Fences don't work any better up there, but maybe the altitude'll give her perspective. The morning after the moving truck pulled out, I saddled my horse and rode the full perimeter of the ranch. Not because I had to, because I wanted to. Because this land? It's more than property. It's proof that you can't buy respect. You earn it. And once you do, it doesn't matter who tries to take it. It's yours. Forever. They came here thinking they could build on someone else's roots. Paint over history with fake smiles and folded napkins. But roots? They run deeper than money. Deeper than rules. Deeper than people like Karen will ever know. You can build all the websites you want. Fly drones. Stage photo ops. But the land remembers. And when it's cared for right, it protects its own. So next time someone looks at your fence and says it's just a line, you look them in the eye and say, no, it's the line between who I am and who you thought I'd let you be.